10 or 20 years ago, it was only a couple of writers, about 3 or 4 science fiction writers, that were playing with the genre and introducing it to the world. And now there are literally hundreds of thousands of people that are experimenting with it and creating. And so each time somebody creates something, it changes a little bit.
Steampunk is more like a teacup. Steampunk is the teacup, and then whatever you pour into it takes the shape of steampunk. So you can put a vampire story in here, and it's steampunk, or you can put a rock and roll album in here, and it's steampunk.
It's not just the Victorian period, it's not just England, it can be post-apocalyptic, it can be other countries, there is so much to it. But I think ultimately the way I try to describe it for people not very familiar with it is that it began as actually a literary movement in the 70s and then grew into an aesthetic movement, etc. from there. But in the literary movement, what you have are contemporary writers writing about the past using futuristic technologies.
I think everything about steampunk is special. I think that you can do things in steampunk that you can't do in hard sci-fi, that you can't do in strict fantasy, because it's a blending of all the elements, right? You can do pretty much everything you want from a writer standpoint, and from a reader standpoint, you can read all about different things, right? You can have magic and technology working together in ways that you don't really see in any other genre.
It's aware of the problematics of the era it comes from, because it's Victorian England, the Empire is generally the setting of steampunk work, but the Empire was absolutely rife with racism and sexism and colonialism, and it's very difficult to celebrate Empire and era without being aware of the issues. And I think the great appeal of steampunk is that it gives us the ability to address these issues.
So in my case, I wanted to address feminism slash sexism, sort of as my big sort of overarching thing, but also racism and classism. And classism is fascinating because, having lived in England for 3 years, it's still there. It still very much exists, but we're less familiar with it in North America. So setting a book in the past, we can understand the concept classism a bit more clearly than in the contemporary English society, where it's a little more subtle and muddled.
But if you're setting something in a steampunk setting, then you've already sort of got the building blocks, the shortcuts, the shorthand with the audience. If I say it's neo-Victorian, you understand where our starting point is. If I say it's neo-Edwardian, you know where our starting point is. And I can build and I can do something different with that. And I think it's quite a lovely shorthand, like fan fiction is a shorthand for storytelling. We've got the characters and we've got the setting established. Now let's just tell the story.
I like dressing up. I've been a dress-up girl all my life, and steampunk lets me wear frilly bits and lacy bits and sparkly things. It took me a while to realize that I was a steampunker 25 years ago and didn't know it. I've always loved antiques. I've always been an antique collector, a collector of oddities, a maker of weird things that nobody understood, costumes that didn't quite fit into a genre.
Steampunk recalls an era when technology and items, consumer items, were lovingly crafted and handmade, and there wasn't this sense of disposableness. Steampunk recalls an era when there was pride in makerness and pride in craftsmanship.
What fascinates me about steampunk is the sense of fun and the possibilities. You can be incredibly creative, and it's something that's available to anyone. Anybody can be creative with it, anybody can play with it, and it just opens the imagination.
She's basically the first real steampunk sculpture I've ever done. I'd never done anything like this before. She's just a collection of really interesting little bits and pieces, but her body actually came when I was vacuuming one day and my vacuum blew out. literally. The motor just blew, so I then had a body. So her body, her neck, and the plate that holds her face together is all bits and pieces out of that old vacuum cleaner. She deserved the time. I had to find just the right pieces. And so a lot of things came along at later dates. So yeah, I've got a real connection to her. I'm not willing to let her go at this point in time.
When I go to steampunk events, I definitely dress up. It really depends on the event as to how much or how little. We go from things, you can go from things like here we'll have movie nights and we'll show steampunk movies. And we advise people to dress really comfortable because some people may be on the floor, you're, just sitting eating popcorn and such. So then there are bigger events, like when we have an anniversary party for the group, people will really dress up for that.
When a friend in the belly dance community suggested I might enjoy steampunk, and I joined Steampunk Ottawa, I discovered, oh my God, there's so many other people out there just like me.
We started the group to start events here. And we had the first event here. We had just had a really simple tea at our house here to just get people to come and talk about what kind of things we wanted to do. And then it went from there. And now we're almost at our 4th year anniversary. So there's been a lot of different events.
Me, it helped expand like all the novels and stuff that I read, the books. If I wouldn't have been in Steampunk, I wouldn't have thought of looking into those specific series myself. But now that I have where people tell me, oh, you should watch this, you should watch that, try this.
It's made me feel more relaxed actually, because I used to be in another group where everything was a reenactment group and everything was really specific and had to be period, really, really tense. And this group is very relaxed and it's made me feel more relaxed, just laid back.
It gets hot on stage, so
it's like air conditioning.
I got a fan in there, so it comes in handy, whatever.
And lights in case
the lights.
Although
Lights go dark.
I've
taken off my batteries last night or whatever because I was changing something and forgot to put them back in. Whatever. It's functional, just like my other weird mind reading habits. I'm going to put this on you. This basically enhances psychic ability by playing around to both the limbic and the controlling portion of the brain in the front of your head. So just try to put that on there like that. I know it's a tight fit, but it just floats. It has to float over your head. That's why you have the thing right there. Perfect. Excellent. I'm just going to plug it in here. Cards are different. I'm going to place them in the paper like so and wrap it up like that. And I want you to take it. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Right-handed. So take this with your left hand, and you're going to find it using this. Okay. Put it in a basic stabbing position. Now remember, you are a steampunk psychic, not a steampunk psycho. So, you're going to search the edge like that, back and forth, and then when you feel right, put the knife right through to the table. Try to find that jack of diamonds. Look at this, she's concentrating, excellent. Right through. Now, the card must be on this side or this side of the blade, okay? So I want you to hold on to the blade and twist it to separate the cards. Just twist it like that. Okay, now keep it there, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move.
What we're doing is taking today's attitudes and ideals and adding them and expanding them and using them in the steampunk world, and taking the Victorian, the best parts of Victorian period, not the not so pleasant parts, and using those instead. So we have the ability and the luck of having what we're living with today to expand in the steampunk world. So I'm happy with today and the steampunk that we have today. steampunk encourages people to act in a more genteel manner. They treat each other in kinder ways. We have an attitude of being splendid to each other, of respect. People come to meet and greets and always go away feeling really welcomed and always coming back and telling other people to come. And so it is expanding the group in that manner.
Steampunk is hard for other people to understand if they're not in it. They see us walking down the street on our way to events in these elaborate costumes, and they either try to ignore us and look the other way, or they look in interest. Sometimes people will ask if they're interested. But for the most part, steampunk people get steampunk people, and it's really hard for us to explain ourselves to people who aren't part of it. But we're not alone in that. I think if you're into any kind of cosplay, medieval reenactment, Civil War reenactors, they all run into the same people, the same question. People say, why do you do this? And the answer is because I enjoy it.